Okay, today we're going to look at prime factorization, and we're going to be working with the numbers 24, 50, and 120. And what I'm going to do with each number is I'm going to get the prime factorization using factor trees, but I'm going to get each one two different ways. So I'm going to start with 24. And to begin, I'm going to do 2 times 12. Now I'm going to circle the 2 because 2 is prime, and then I'm going to break down 12 as 3 times 4. I'm going to circle the 3 because it's prime, and then I'm going to break down 4 is 2 times 2. And I'm going to circle the 2's there because they are prime. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to write 1, 2, 3. So I've got 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. Now that's the prime factorization for 24. And you can leave it like this. However, I'm going to write it using exponents, and I'm going to write 2 to the third power times 3. But either way is correct. Now I'm going to break 24 down using 4 times 6. And I'm going to break down the 4 as 2 times 2 and the 6 as 2 times 3. And again, I'm going to write 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. And if I want to write it using exponents, I'm going to write it as 2 to the third power times 3, and either way is correct. Now moving on to 50. The first thing that I notice about 50 is that it ends in 0, so I know that it can be divided by 10, and so I'm going to start with 5 times 10, and I'm going to circle the 5 because it's prime, and now I'm going to break down 10 as 2 times 5, and I'm going to write 2 times 5 times 5. And just a side note here, I like to write the numbers in order from least to greatest. So 2 times 5 times 5 instead of doing like 5 times 2 times 5. I just like to keep it in a nice clean order. And so again, if you want to write this using exponents, you can do 2 times 5 to the second power. And again, either way is correct. Now I'm going to break down 50 using 2 times 25. I'm going to circle the 2 because it's prime, and then 25 is 5 times 5, and if I write 2 times 5 times 5, I am done. However, if I would like to, and I am going to write it using exponents, 2 times 5 to the second power. And finally, we want to look at 120, and there are a lot of different ways you can break down 120. However, I'm going to start by doing 12 times 10. And so when I break down 12, I'm going to break that down as 3 times 4. I'm going to circle 3 because it's prime, and then 4 as 2 times 2. Again, circling the number whenever I get the primes. And I'm going to break down 10 as 2 times 5. Both of those are prime, so I'll circle them. Now, I think a good strategy to use here is to strike through the numbers as you write them. That way you don't forget to write any down. So I've got 1, 2, 3. So I've got 1, 2, 3 2's times 3 times 5. And I cannot fit it there, so I'm going to try again. There we go. And so this is correct. You can leave it like this, or you can write it using exponents. And I'm going to write that as 2 to the third power times 3 times 5. And that's how I like to write it. However, either way is correct. And finally, I'm going to do 2 times 60. I'm going to circle the 2 because it's prime. And then I'm going to break down 60 as 2 times 30. And I'm going to do this as 5 times 6. And then to break down 6, I'm going to do 2 times 3. And so I have 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3 times 3 times 5. And again, with exponents, that would be 2 to the third power times 3 times 5. And that is the prime factorization of 120.